In a beautiful village called Ndele, there lived a very wealthy man named Kofi. Kofi had everything he could ever want: a big house, many cattle, and fields full of crops. But Kofi was not happy. He wanted to find true love, a wife who would love him for who he was, not for his wealth. One day, Kofi came up with a clever plan. He decided to disguise himself as a poor man and go to a nearby village called Bontuku. He dressed in old, tattered clothes and left all his riches behind. He carried only a small sack with a few simple belongings. When Kofi arrived in Bontuku, he introduced himself as Kojo, a humble farmer looking for work. The people of Bontuku were kind and welcomed Kojo. They did not know he was really Kofi, the wealthy man from Ndele. Kojo found work on a small farm owned by a kind woman named Mama Amina. Mama Amina had a beautiful daughter named Asha. Asha was not only beautiful, but she was also kind, hardworking, and always helped others in the village. Kojo and Asha quickly became friends. They worked together on the farm, planting seeds and taking care of the animals. They laughed and talked about their dreams and hopes for the future. Kojo was very happy, but he kept his true identity a secret. One day, there was a big celebration in Bontuku. The villagers gathered to dance, sing, and share delicious food. Kojo and Asha danced together, and Kojo felt his heart fill with joy. He knew that Asha was the one he wanted to marry. However, Kojo worried about what would happen when Asha found out he was really Kofi, the wealthy man from Ndele. Would she still love him if she knew the truth? As the sun set and the celebration came to an end, Kojo and Asha sat by the river. The moonlight reflected on the water, making everything look magical. Asha, Kojo said softly, "There is something I need to tell you." Asha looked at him with kind eyes. "What is it, Kojo?" Kojo took a deep breath and began to tell Asha the truth about who he really was. But before he could finish, a loud noise came from the village. The villagers were shouting and pointing to the sky. Kojo and Asha ran back to the village to see what was happening. To their surprise, they saw a group of travelers arriving with a grand caravan of camels and horses. The travelers were dressed in fine clothes and carried gifts. It was clear they were from a wealthy land. One of the travelers stepped forward and spoke to the villagers. "We are looking for a man named Kofi," he announced. "He is our master, and we have urgent news for him." The villagers looked confused. They did not know anyone named Kofi, but Kojo's heart raced. He knew his secret was about to be revealed. Just then, Mama Amina stepped forward. "I do not know anyone named Kofi," she said, "but you may rest here for the night." Kojo knew he had to act quickly. He turned to Asha, his eyes full of worry. "Asha, I must explain everything," he said. "But please, do not judge me until you hear my story." Asha nodded, her curiosity piqued. "I will listen, Kojo. Tell me everything." Kojo took a deep breath and began to tell Asha the true story of his life, about his wealth, and why he had come to Bontuku disguised as a poor man. As he spoke, he could see the surprise and confusion in Asha's eyes. He hoped with all his heart that she would understand and still care for him. But before Kojo could finish his story, one of the travelers approached them. "Kofi," the traveler exclaimed, "we have found you at last. There is an important matter that needs your attention back home." Asha looked at Kojo, now realizing he was indeed the wealthy man named Kofi. She felt a whirlwind of emotions but stayed quiet, waiting to hear the rest of his story. Kojo knew he had to return to Ndele, but he also knew he could not leave without knowing how Asha truly felt about him. He looked deep into her eyes and asked, "Asha, now that you know the truth, can you still care for me, not for my wealth, but for who I am inside?" Asha took a moment to think. She remembered all the times they had shared, the laughter and the hard work. She knew that the man she had come to care for was not defined by his wealth but by his kindness and honesty. "Asha, I must go back to Ndele for a short time," Kojo said. "But I promise I will return, and when I do, I hope you will have an answer for me, Asha nodded. Go, Kofi. Do what you must. I will be here, waiting for your return. Kojo smiled, feeling a sense of hope and relief. He knew the journey ahead would not be easy, but he was determined to come back to Bontuku and win Asha's heart. With a heavy heart but a hopeful spirit, Kofi joined the travelers and began the journey back to Ndele, leaving Asha and the village of Bontuku behind, but not forgotten. As Kofi traveled back to Ndele with the caravan, his mind was filled with thoughts of Asha. He hoped that she would understand his reasons and still love him when he returned. The journey was long, but finally they reached Ndele. When Kofi arrived at his grand house, his servants and advisors greeted him with surprise and relief. They had been worried about his sudden disappearance. Kofi quickly reassured them that he was fine and asked about the urgent matter that had brought them to Bontuku. One of his trusted advisors, named Quang, stepped forward. Master Kofi, there has been a dispute over the borders of your land. Some neighboring farmers are claiming that part of your land belongs to them. We need your wisdom to settle this matter peacefully. Kofi nodded. I understand. Let's resolve this issue as quickly as possible so I can return to Bontuku. Kofi spent the next few days working hard to settle the dispute. He met with the farmers, listened to their concerns, and found a fair solution that made everyone happy. Once the matter was resolved, Kofi prepared to return to Bontuku. Before leaving, he decided to bring gifts for Asha and Mama Amina to show his appreciation and respect. He selected beautiful fabrics, jewelry, and delicious treats, hoping these gifts would express his feelings and gratitude. With everything ready, Kofi set off for Bontuku once more. His heart raced with excitement as he thought about seeing Asha again. He wondered if she had thought about him as much as he had thought about her. When Kofi arrived in Bontuku, the villagers welcomed him back warmly. Mama Amina was surprised to see him dressed in fine clothes and realized that he truly was the wealthy man from Ndele. Kofi, it's good to see you again, Mama Amina said with a smile. I understand now why you came here disguised as a poor man. Kofi nodded. Yes, Mama Amina. I wanted to find true love, someone who would care for me, not my wealth. Mama Amina called for Asha, who came running from the fields. When she saw Kofi, her eyes widened in surprise. She had been thinking about him every day since he left. Kofi, you're back, Asha exclaimed. I have so many questions. Kofi smiled warmly. I know, Asha. I came back to answer all your questions and to ask you something very important. They sat down together under the shade of a large baobab tree. Kofi explained everything about his life in Ndele, his wealth, and why he had disguised himself as a poor man. Asha listened carefully, her eyes never leaving his. Asha, Kofi said finally, I came back because I love you. I want to marry you and spend my life with you. But I need to know if you love me for who I am, not for my riches. Asha took a deep breath. She thought about all the time they had spent together, working side by side on the farm, sharing dreams and laughter. She realized that she loved Kofi for his kindness, his honesty, and his courage. Kofi, she said softly, I love you for who you are, not for your wealth. You are the same person who worked with me in the fields and made me laugh. I would be honored to be your wife. Kofi's heart filled with joy. He took Asha's hand and said, Thank you, Asha. You have made me the happiest man in the world. The villagers of Bontuku celebrated with Kofi and Asha. There was dancing, singing, and feasting. Mama Amina blessed their union, and everyone wished them a lifetime of happiness. Kofi and Asha returned to Ndele together, where they lived happily ever after. They continued to visit Bontuku often, never forgetting the village where their true love began. And so, the story of the wealthy man who disguised himself as a poor man to find true love became a cherished tale in both Ndele and Bontuku, reminding everyone that true love comes from the heart, not from riches.